You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Falling Skies After Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Bing is for doing. We're here doing the Search and Recover episode of Falling Skies Season 3. Welcome, everybody. I am your host, Phil Svitek, joined alongside, of course, Nando.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Nando. This was, I actually enjoyed this episode. In the sense of, I know, with my predictions, things like that, I didn't want to kind of take it. I thought it would just be a completely Tom and Pope episode, but it wasn't, so I'm glad for that. And we expanded and we continued and we developed. And so I like this episode.
I agree. I liked it a lot. I was looking forward to a Pope and Tom episode as well. Not like you. I was more looking forward to it because I kind of like that dynamic. But it was nice to see things moving forward. We get to learn a little bit more about what's going on. There was the search for Anne and Alexis, and that's the search part of the show, Search and Recover, and a little bit more about who the mole might be and what's going on with the bomb weapon.
Let's start with that. Who is the mole?
Who's the mole?
Well, the #1 question of Season 3.
I've been predicting since I think episode 1. I think it's Marina, and definitely is a case for her as of this episode that she could be the mole. She's acting very, very odd. She's seems to like being in the position of power right now. She has control. She's doing things her own way. She went down to talk to Dr. Gadar to try and figure out about the Volm weapon, even though Dr. Gadar was working on something else for Lourdes. And I guess with her, it's really, really interesting. She wants to know about the Volm weapon. She's lied about, which we've discovered. Dr. Gadar found out later. She lied to Dr. Gadar saying that this was something that Tom wanted.
Tom did, yeah.
And it's like, does she want to know because she wants to make her own power play to be in charge of Charleston, or is she doing this to? Or are her reasons more sincere? Is there more good intention involved in her reasons right now?
I don't know. I say no more so because as we're finding about the kids, he says, I have all these births from about 6 months ago. We're gonna do some DNA tests. She doesn't care.
Yeah. So
if she was good, she would care. And it doesn't take you away from your priority of trying to figure this out. But at least make an effort to care and say, that's interesting. This is actually a little bit more important. But you know what? That's good as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And she didn't. She completely just was like, yeah, whatever.
There are a bunch of newborns that you're worried about, and they were born in the past 6 months. They're doing testing to see that if they're okay, or if there was some effect either from the environment or some kind of weapon that they don't know about, something they're unaware about that could be affecting the newborns. And she's just like, no. She just shows a picture of the Volm weapon, and she's just like, just work on that.
And it's surprising if she is the mole and on all these different things. She's doing a terrible job of convincing the audience now.
Yeah.
Whereas she's done an amazing job apparently convincing everybody else that she's good.
Well, that's always, this is the first episode where I want to say I don't think she's the mole, because I feel like now it's like when it's that over the head, when it seems that obvious, you have to start thinking against it. Or at least that's the way I look at it. I start thinking, okay, maybe there's another play there. The only other...
It could be, but it's so far into the season that it could start to make sense. You know what I mean? Whereas now it's okay to go over the top because she really is, and we don't have to hide it from the audience anymore. Whereas if this was episode 1, then I could see that argument.
I guess that's true. I guess that makes sense when you put it that way. The one interesting thing I'd also want to bring up, too, with Marina this episode is her interactions with Weaver when Weaver wanted to send his search party out, which we'll get more into, I know, a little bit later. But she had a bit of a tender moment saying when Weaver was talking about the second mask being family, and she had a family too. And when I heard that, I almost thought that might be motivation for being a mole. Because the other thought is, if you're human, why do you want to be a mole? What are you being promised as a mole? What bigger thing probably than a family member who's been captured, or a daughter or son that's been harnessed? So that, I would think, might be the motivation. The fact that she did have a family, and she seemed very genuine when she said that. She seemed very somber when she said that. She
did, and you know what? It's also in that moment, in terms of a leader, she almost kind of backpedals, and so as much as weight Tom has put on her, in terms of how great she is, in that moment she wasn't, because she was kind of backpedaling on her decision to say, no, you don't get anyone else. If you want to go, by all means. Yeah. But I'm not sending anyone else in.
And then what do you take from Marina, her last interaction with Weaver when she saw him off? Jeannie, his daughter, was teasing that Marina likes him. But do you think that there was some motivation for that as well? Do you think there's something genuine there? Like she actually did have a moment with Weaver? Or do you think that maybe...
Possibly. I mean, it's so interesting, especially how they brought her in for this episode, the daughter I'm talking about. I don't know what to take from that. I mean, I think more so it's an indication that he might be falling for her rather than she for him. I think, if she is after power and things like that, it's in her interest to gain his love. Yeah. And I think that she could be doing that. But I don't truly see that from her.
Okay. Well, if she's not the mole, at the very least, she seems very capable to be making a power play right now, to take more control, to do things her way, and set herself up to be the next president of their little country that they have there in Charleston. So of those 5,000 people that she mentioned to Weaver that she has a duty to protect, as opposed to going out to search for Anne and Alexis, which we kind of do you want to move into that one, or is there anything else? Actually,
let's do it. I mean, no, I mean it's interesting how the last bit, not that this is that important, but the fact that everything kind of goes through him, Dar, and also where the photos kind of really did come from. Yeah, because she gives him those and things like that, and she says it's none of your business. Just pretty much just do your job and don't ask.
Yeah, really interesting about that too. Yeah, again, it's like, I mean, that's exactly someone who's a spy would probably not want to give any answers, but just want to try and go up to this person and give him a little story and get. I mean, it makes perfect sense to find out what the Von weapon is and report it back to. Yeah. Report it back to the Ashvedi. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And then it's going to be his report. Should we talk about kind of his report? Of that,
of the kids,
the Watts and things like that.
Oh yeah, well absolutely. I think that's also really important. I think because this is. I think we've also suspected that we don't know what this weapon is. We have no idea what this weapon is, but we're finally getting some more information on it. Yeah, and the information doesn't make sense.
Well, it just sounds kind of like Back to the Future with 21
gigawatts.
Yeah, and all those different things. So. It's obviously the MacGuffin of this whole storyline for this season. So we'll see kind of how it goes. But I think it's interesting if she is the mole, how she is isolating, and how everyone ultimately isolates this doctor, because in many ways, he's the vehicle to get you all this information, and as much as this weapon may be the way to win the war, he's the way to kind of help win the war as well, because he obviously cares and wants to do as much and is knowledgeable and can do it. Yeah. He's a one-man band.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's a great character. I'm glad to keep seeing him because he is a great character, and he's very quirky as well, which kind of helps to it. And I do think he's gonna be the key to a lot this season, because he's already trying to figure out the Von weapon. We're probably gonna need some answers from him in the future if this weapon turns out to be something that's going to damage the humans. It's going to harm the humans as well, and then also just to try and figure out what's going on with all these little DNA things. I mean, with Alexis, with Hal, who knows who else? I mean, obviously they're testing other babies to make sure that that there's not something going on with all the newborns. So it's really vital now.
Does the notion come up to test all of the the Tom's family?
I think that would be a smart test to do, but I don't think the notion is there yet for them.
I don't think so either. But you can deduce it that way. Of okay, well, what is it about? Is anybody else affected?
Yeah.
Certainly, at least Tom and
yeah, I figure. Well, you figure, yeah. If the baby is infected, if someone has a sickness or a disease and you can't figure it out, one of the first things the doctor would probably go to is it hereditary? Is there some reason from the two parents, something from the two parents that was given to the child?
Yeah.
So I would assume that a doctor would eventually make that notion. I don't know if they're there just because, again, it's alien DNA. I don't think they would think that Tom or Anne have alien DNA in them that would be mixed in there.
Sure. So let's talk about the Anne kind of storyline. Quite interesting. I think what's great about it in general, not that we saw this, but I'm excited to potentially see because Tom's gone and now the entire family's gone. It leaves pretty much Charlestown exposed.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Absolutely.
So I think that's going to come back to bite them in many ways.
Well, again, I don't. They are out there, but one of them is Hal, or Evil Hal. So at least they got him out of Charleston, so that helps too. And and who knows what's going on with Alexis? So that family is a little dysfunctional right now, anyway, with all the alien stuff going on. So I don't know if it's totally terrible for Charleston that they're gone. The only problem is Hal being gone and Marina being in charge. But it was a really interesting. I was really curious. I told you this last episode. I was really confused with Anne's motivation for conking out Kadar and then drugging Lourdes and then running off with Anne. So they kind of did a good explanation for it. I mean, I'm not a mother, so I guess she was just like panicking and just wanted to get out of there.
Well, especially she's never been in a situation like that, and she tried to speak about it to Tom, and Tom wasn't ready to listen, or whatever the case is, or however he would put it. And so, I think she did panic.
Yeah.
And they spent a lot of time, obviously, focusing on the fact of, what did happen to her. And they find this body along the way. And they think it's Anne initially, but it's not. And so they have this funeral, and everyone kind of has their moment.
Well, that was really touching, especially with Matt, because Matt, a couple of episodes, had that major argument with Anne when he got in trouble for blowing up a door of that house, and she was trying to talk to him like a mother did, and he said, "You're not my mom," and he yelled at her, and then he felt guilty. So I thought it was really, really tender. I think part of Matt was really affected. It was good that Matt went on the search party. Hal was trying to not let him. I don't know if that was evil Hal or it was like really, Hal back in a normal moment trying to be protective of his little brother. But Matt went over there and he was really scared about it, that being Anne. And he was the one who wanted to bury Anne. He was the most affected by it. And Weaver actually listened to Matt this whole episode. Weaver was very, very touching this whole episode, I have to admit, for just about everything. He just was coming from a very I used the word vulnerable already, I think, but a very vulnerable place. Mm-hmm. So, which I kind of liked. It's different. It's a different kind of Weaver. He's really grown a lot.
Well, I think the fact that his daughter was there too, I think he felt a connection. He felt part of the family.
It's kind of grounded him.
Yeah,
I would say, with his daughter there as well. So, but yeah, it was. What was interesting was that funeral scene in particular was a very tender moment for. It ended up not just being tender and tender and touching for Matt, but everyone got involved, like trying to picture like this woman was a mother. She was probably out going for food, and they were just saying all these little stories and everything, and just everyone. It was just very, very touching scene. I really liked it. Yeah,
and it definitely humanized the whole kind of situation, which we've always talked about the war aspect of it, but then also the family element.
Yeah,
and I think this tragedy unfortunately brings families closer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's later represented with the Liberty Tree.
Yeah, It certainly is with that Liberty Tree. So,
Which, by the way, one of our fans did write in, and that was a real thing in Boston. They did have a Liberty Tree.
oh, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And that's where they came. And that's where they came from.
Yeah.
So that's where Second Mass came from, obviously. So I guess that is pretty touching. Then.
So, Sea Fans, you write in, and we do listen.
A couple of things about the search party were interesting. Well, first of all, the most obvious one is at the end of last week's episode, we saw when Anne and Alexis were escaping and they were trapped, we saw Hal.
Yeah.
But Hal woke up. We saw Hal in the beginning of this episode pretty much in bed with Maggie, waking up. So whatever it was that Hal did, I guess it was either a dream state or who knows, the way he was acting last episode was so weird. He just went back as if business was normal and just either played stupid or really didn't genuinely know that Anne and Alexis was missing when Ben came to wake them up.
Yeah.
So that was the first big thing about that. And then the other one that I wanted, the other one that I wanted to bring up for sure. And actually, you know what? Let's stick on Hal for a second. Because when Matt and Ben had that really touching moment by the Liberty Tree, and Ben was like staring at them. I'm sorry, Hal was staring at them. What do you take for that? That was really weird.
I think I'm gonna guess that in tonight's episode, Hal was the real Hal. But the burden for him in this episode was the fact that he had the knowledge of, at any moment he could become a spy. He still thinks of him as the spy, and he's unpredictable. Yeah. And so he's looking at them, reminiscing about the mom, and kind of wondering his own fate and destiny and all of this of, okay, where do I fit in now that I'm possibly a monster, and I don't even know what kind of monster I am. And I don't know how conscious he is of how much he can control it, but it seems like he knows he can't control himself. Yeah. And so I think that's what the look was more for me, rather than him being possessed at that point and being like, ooh, I'm going to eat these people, whatever the case may be.
Well, it's just weird because it did have a bit of a, every now and then when evil Hal shows up, you see that look on his face. So that stare kind of reminded me of evil Hal in a way. So I was always wondering, is he plotting for something? That's what I was kind of thinking of, because we didn't really get to see, I guess, too much of evil Hal. I mean, he was telling Matt to stay behind, and again, he's just playing along. There was no little wink to the audience, kind of like Marina. It seems like it's hitting us over the head, like she's the mole. This episode was a very subdued Hal. So I guess that's what I noticed out of it. And then the other thing I thought was really interesting was Jeannie, was Weaver's daughter. I guess when they were talking about Anne, I mean, we don't know the alien DNA exactly what's going on with this alien DNA, but Anne was said, I guess the aliens can't beat us, they can't do this, so they're trying to create a new species out of us. And then she told her dad to pretty much, what was the exact words? Like,
my favorite line was he didn't really understand. It took like 3 times for him to kind of get it.
Well, because the way she was saying it, but she pretty much was saying to put her down if something like that was to happen to her. So it was almost like I guess in a way it is a violation of if giving birth to a new species or something like that, that must be a really freaky thing for someone to think about, something like that growing in their body. So she was totally like, yeah, don't let this happen to me. Don't let them use me. Yeah. So, which I thought was really interesting. And again, I really wonder what kind of alien DNA is this? I still think it might be Volm. Honestly, I think it may be Volm, not Ashveni or not Skitter, obviously. So, but whatever it is, it's creating a new species that, at least as far as we can tell, learns a lot faster. The kid can speak. The kid can have an evil laugh and sneak around.
Yeah. So, I thought that was a really good kind of. The speech by them, nice father-son, or father-daughter moment, rather. Yeah. Ultimately.
And again, I'm really I dug Weaver this episode. I mean, he his speech to Marina saying we're family. If somebody's lost, we find them. If somebody's in trouble, we help them out. It really adds to the family aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. But in terms of that, it was left where it was left. They didn't find her. They
didn't find her, but they found Tom.
They found Tom.
And Pope, yeah.
So let's go back to them. Let's start, and then before we kind of talk about how they break the news to Tom about Anne.
Yeah.
Let's kind of backtrack.
All right. Well, of course, this was what they were teasing last week before we even saw this episode, and it took up a majority of it. Everybody, Bresler's dead. He was the pilot of the plane, and he probably saved them by getting them away as far away from possible from enemy fire. But they crash land, and it's Pope and Tom alive, and they pretty much have to work together the whole episode.
Ironically, it reminded me of Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
Well, because you have Tom, who's supposed to be this kind of older, in Homeward Bound, the older dog, kind of mentors the younger dog, and Pope is that younger dog, who doesn't respect authority, plays by his own rules, but is also kind of idiotic throughout. And yet, initially you see Tom kind of being the one that is helping, right? He can make fire, he can do all these different things, but eventually when Tom is injured, he needs Pope to kind of do all these different things for him, and that's that's the turn, and that's so I think an homage to Homeward Bound. Ultimately.
Well, it was interesting seeing Tom rescue Pope, which we know Tom would do, rescuing Pope to get him out of the plane. And again, this relationship, them talking about the whole fire starting scene where they're all just going at each other's, it seems like if one person says the sky's black, the other one says no, it's white. It's like every single decision they make, they're at odds with each other for. And sometimes... But
we learned a lot about Tom, through those different things. They were also kind of sharing their past and really, into their ideology, and the fact that Tom's father was a drunk.
Yeah.
And he says, the one thing I benefited, I guess, was that I survived. So,
yeah.
And that's an interesting notion, especially you could take it to mean in this situation they're going to survive, or in terms of the human race, in terms of everything what they're doing on, for the show. Yeah. They will survive, and that's the mentality that he's lived by.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious that's what way he's been going at it his whole life right now, except for the one point when he was trying to get rid of. He almost gave up in the middle there when he got rid of Pope. When he yelled at Pope and said, "We're both going to die because you don't have the balls to go out there and survive on your own." So there was that moment. I also want to bring up the backstory for Pope because I thought that was huge too. Yeah, we learn a little bit more about what happened to him, and I guess they didn't say it, but I guess they insinuated he served some jail time. But I guess the interesting thing,
which isn't surprising,
but I think it's surprising in the story that how he served jail time. I mean, he was scared for his son. His son almost got run over by this guy, and he went to confront him and punched him. And the guy hit the asphalt really, really hard, and he ended up bleeding out from his injuries. So, which is kind of sad, I admit.
It's sad, but it also shows that Pope doesn't handle his emotions in the right way. He doesn't handle things in the right way. So there was a right way of going about handling that. Yeah. And I understand emotion comes into it, and specifically anger, but you can't always just do that. Because then obviously he's in the wrong despite everything.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too. I totally understand that. It shows his personality a little bit, but still, again, I think the surprise is that he didn't rob a bank or purposely try to kill someone. He wasn't where he came from, at least, was a good place. He just didn't know how to handle himself, and he still has those issues. Obviously, that he doesn't know how to handle himself, and it's affected him. I mean, you could tell he realizes because of his actions he lost his kids. He didn't see them for 5 years before the alien invasion. That's kind of a very somber moment as well. But the one interesting thing though about after that whole interaction, especially with Pope, and they went to bed, Pope scared Tom, like a little childish little joke with a dead snake, I guess, and Tom flew off the handle. Like I mean, he got to be the one that was using violence. Not Pope. Yeah. What do you think about that? Because I thought that was really interesting.
It's always kind of, I don't know. I don't necessarily know how to interpret that just yet. I mean, it does show that Tom perhaps has a snapping point. Yeah. And I think part of it is, he's torn. When we last kind of saw him, torn between so many different things. Okay, who is the mole? You know, okay, I've basically exposed the present to these different things. My family's back home, and I got to worry about them. My wife really wants to talk to me, and I don't have time for her. And then how do I lead these people now? You know, I left on a secret mission. How do we, you know, kind of bring that up? Like, you know what I mean? So it's all these different things, and I think, you know, he's breaking down.
Yeah. No, he definitely seems to be under stress. But again, it just was surprising that that whole thing just started and set him off. Because I don't know. I guess if someone threw a dead snake at me when I was sleeping, I guess I'd be really upset about it. I'd be pissed off. I don't know if I'd fly off the handle the way he did. They had some really big old brawl. And then the skitters, they heard skitters.
But up until that point, Pope wasn't listening to him, you know, from the get-go, you know, and it was a nice tit for tat in the sense, you know, initially Tom says, okay, let's get out of here, and Pope kind of saves him of, like, you know, when the light's coming down and they could have been caught there, and Pope tells him to wait.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, a back and forth in terms of who. I think ultimately the takeaway, and hopefully for them, I mean, certainly the audience, we get it, but hopefully for them, it's that they need each other to survive. And the only reason, you know, obviously the only reason that they did was because they did have each other.
Yeah, because they worked together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, you know, really good interaction with the two of them. And I think, you know, it kind of goes back to even what Weaver said before, second mass is family. And even though Pope hasn't been happy with Tom's decisions, and he's yelled at him before about the deaths to his crew, you know, he still sees value in having Tom, especially the end. Pope's hanging out in the hospital room for 2 days waiting for Tom to wake up. I mean, that shows you that Pope has a heart when it comes to Tom too, and he's still, you know, I guess you could fight with your family, but you still stand by them at the end.
Yeah.
So, which is really, really interesting.
I agree. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's going to be interesting to see to kind of Tom back in the role. I mean, there's honestly too much to talk about. You know, apart from the moments that they speak, because it's just more of a visual episode, at least from their storyline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the conflict is in that, and them trying to survive. And so I really enjoyed it from a visceral sense.
What do you think? Here's a question about this whole interaction we didn't really hit upon. I mean, half of the arguing that they had while they were on this adventure was, how did the aliens know about Keystone? I mean, obviously, Pope still feels it's a mole, and Tom was trying to come up with some other ways. But I guess there is some truth to it, that it took a while. I think Tom said something that made sense. It took them a little while to get to Keystone.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't know the coordinates for Keystone until they were already in the plane. So even as much as I want to say Melina's the mole, she didn't hear the coordinates. There was no way she could have heard the coordinates because she wasn't in the plane with them.
What about a tracker?
That was a point that he made also, a possible tracker. So, I mean that makes sense too. But still, it feels like, or if they were following them. But again, still, it makes you wonder, like, why didn't they attack sooner? Like, what kind of information that reveal? I'm not saying that the answer is right in front of us. I'm just saying that it just throws more
Question
in this whole in this whole mole thing. Exactly. So, and the motivation for the mole.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'm also interested. Obviously, you know, it's still kind of in the area of what happened to Cochise, what happened to the president. You know, I mean, especially from a Hope perspective. Okay, you know, here's this icon, the symbol, you know, the president, and I'm going to be delivering amazing news not only to Charlestown but all the different colonies, etc. And that goes out the window. Well,
yeah, because the plane crashed. So it's a matter of whether or not they're alive.
Yeah.
Do you think they're? I kind of feel like they're dead. I feel like they both. I mean, maybe Cochise would be alive. It would make sense for him since this weapon is still being built.
Yeah.
And he's the only Vuln we've really met. So it makes me wonder if he still survived. I mean, the other thought too, and this is an odd thought, but it's possible too, is the Vuln set up that attack?
Possibly, but
that doesn't make sense to me. But that's a possibility.
Well, certainly the people of Charleston would have you believe that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, it's going to be interesting, kind of seeing it progress.
Yeah.
From there. Yeah. And then you know, going back to finally tying the Anne storyline with the Tom storyline.
Yeah.
You know, he gets the news that, and I like that the fact that it's Weaver delivering it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he says there's no easy way of going about this, so I'll just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And then he finds out.
Yeah. Well, and this ties into the whole thing that we've been seeing all season with Tom. It's that when he focuses on when he focuses on his job, his family suffers. When he focuses on family, his job suffers. So there's a no win for him right now. He just went on this whole mission where Anne told him she didn't want him to leave, and all this stuff hit the fan. And you know, and now he gets to concentrate on, I guess, the search for Anne and Alexis and to figure out what's going on. And we'll see if Qatar continues testing or what they do with that too, because that's also going to be a mystery. How did Anne get, or how did Alexis get alien DNA?
And I also want to see, you know, how, because if nothing else, if you know, Miriam's not the mole, certainly she lied.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about Tom wanting this information. So. You know how that's going to come back to him, etc.
And what's her intention? Well, if Gadar even brings it up, because
I think I think he would.
You think so?
I think so, because that's suspicious. You know, Tom didn't commission this, did he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very direct question. You know.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if Gadar does tell Tom like how Marina's going to talk her way out of it.
Yeah.
So I'd be really curious to see that too.
You know, and especially with her answer, you know, Tom should have kind of told all of us about this. So she's blaming him for something, and so the fact that he picks that up, I mean, you got to give him credit. He's a smart doctor.
No, he is a smart doctor.
And as much as he, quote, hates humans, and now his lab has become Grand Central.
I'm sorry, that is so not Grand Central. 2 people do not make Grand Central, but that's okay.
Well, according
2
to
or
him,
3 people does not make it.
According to an agoraphobiac. But anyway, so it's interesting. Want to head into predictions?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do predictions. There we go. I predict I'm going to
got a
hear
delay.
Your AfterBuzz TV.
But here's what I'm thinking. I still think that the DNA in Alexis is vuln. And I was thinking about this.
Is that the weapon? Is that what the weapon is doing?
Well, yeah, I was thinking something similar to that. In the beginning, we saw Anne using that deharnesser for the kids, and she was the only one the vuln trained. So I wonder if it's possible that affected her in enough to put that alien DNA in her. And then I was thinking what Jeannie said about, you know, what are the aliens trying to do now? They're trying to create a new species out of us instead. So I'm wondering if that enormous weapon with all that power either has the power to create the planet the way they want to create it, and maybe create a new species in the process, maybe like some kind of radiation or some kind of waves or something like that could actually affect the internal DNA of people or at least of women, so that they're instead of giving birth to normal humans, they're already adapting as a new species. Or the other thing I was thinking of is maybe kind of like when Kochi said that the reason why he's coming to Earth is for a flower, just because of this one flower that never existed. If maybe they're trying to recreate the Earth in their own image or something like that with this weapon. Why does it need all this power? That's the question.
Yeah.
Why does it need this much power? It's not going to just shoot a gun. It's going to do something else. So I wonder if it's going to just affect the planet or affect the immediate environment.
That's certainly possible. Yeah, those are really, really good observations. Let's see. You know, for me, it's going to be interesting to see how Tom now kind of reacts to everything that's happened. You know, and obviously there's that, you know, we saw the search for Anne, but the fact that there's that huge gap and we don't know how the rest of the night progressed. Yeah. And that big, you know, so I hope to see more answers.
Do you think because do you think Tom would step down as president if his family was in so much danger, like Anne and Alexis right now, to do a search?
If he trusted the person in charge, and so right now he still has faith.
Yeah.
You know, because even a couple episodes he said, you know, she's more than capable of running it. However, let's see if that is still the case. If he finds out information about her, and how that's going to affect it.
Okay. Interesting.
So I mean, it could be interesting the fact that everyone's going to tell all these things, you know, why she is the mole, or why she, you know, especially the doctor, why Tom should suspect her, and then it becomes the fact that she's not the mole, and so Tom's spending all his time trying to, you know, bring her down, and then Mole's doing whatever he wants. So crazy.
And then the mole's really Hal, evil Hal, or something else. I don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. So it's gonna be interesting. Anyway, thank you, Nando, for joining me yet again.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can our fans follow you?
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Nando Vel, Nandovel, and on a couple other shows here as well.
And remember to rate and comment on iTunes and all that fun stuff. And, you know, use the new website as well. You know, there's a comment section there. A few of you have taken advantage, you know, so do that. You know, it'll be fun. It'll be centralized, all on the website. AfterBuzzTV.com. It's brand new. It's redesigned, and we're continuing to kind of evolve based off of your suggestions. And there's a movie. It's out now called Adventures of Serial Buddies. You should download it. It's the first serial killer comedy of all time. Available on iTunes right now, and then other platforms soon. So go to serialbuddies.com to stay updated on that. That's serialbuddies.com. And thank you guys for listening. Follow us here at AfterBuzz TV on all the various social platforms. Thank you, Steven, in the booth.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.